Well, we have one more stop on our way back to the East Coast for the summer, and that is the Finger Lakes of upstate New York. Jason and I lived in Rochester, New York for 15 years. Our kids were born there. We raised them there, so we're excited to go back to our old stomping grounds and show you around the Finger Lakes. This was our favorite thing to do on the weekends. We would take drives around those lakes for hours on the weekends, and we love to explore the little towns around the lake, so we're happy to take you along. Well, we've started our tour of the Finger Lakes. There are 11 official Finger Lakes altogether. Now, the reason that they're called Finger Lakes is because they're long and narrow and they look like fingers. At the end of the last ice age, when the glaciers were receding from this area, the glaciers kind of scraped the land in these long valleys, and these lakes were formed. So we're not going to visit all 11 today. Some are very large, some are very small. This behind me is Canandaigua Lake, kind of a medium-sized one. And kind of in the middle of the 11. We're going to start here and then move east today to some of the bigger lakes. And then tomorrow we might do some of the smaller ones in the west. But we'll just see what we get up to. We love driving around the Finger Lakes, just up and down the hills, the beautiful views. There's a wine trail here. I don't think we're going to stop at any wineries today, but there are lots of wineries in the Finger Lakes. And we just like to see the little lake houses. It was such a peaceful time for us when we lived in Rochester to come out here on the weekends to get away from the city and to be in nature. So we really love this area. The town of Naples is off the south end of Canandaigua Lake, and I stopped in here to Joseph's Wayside Market to see if I could get one of the specialties of this area, which is grape pie. There are a lot of vineyards around here, and every fall Naples has a huge grape festival, and one of the things that people come from all around for is for grape pie at that festival. I don't see any in here today. They must not be in season right now. There's lots of good looking stuff in here, and I can't say that I am a huge fan of grape pie, but it is one of the area specialties. We're just driving through Naples and we passed the Bristol Valley Theater, and there's a sign out front that says Queen Mary is going to be performing there on May 30th. It's a Queen tribute band, and our friend is the lead singer of it. She and her husband have had lots of bands over the years. They're friends of ours in Rochester, and we didn't get to see them this weekend while we were up in the city because they said she was out doing gigs. So I see she's scheduled here in Naples. That's so funny. The next lake east of Canandaigua is Keuka Lake. This is the only Finger Lake that is a Y-shaped. All the other ones are just straight up and down fingers. Keuka is one of our favorites because it's got this little village of Hammondsport at the southern end of the lake, and then we're going to drive all the way to the north to the little village of Penn Yan, which is also one of our favorites. made it up to Penn Yan at the top of Keuka Lake. This is a town of about 5,000 people, and it's also the home of the annual Buckwheat Festival. Penn Yan holds the record for the world's largest buckwheat pancake. They have this big griddle on the side of this building. Looks like they're refurbishing it right now, but has been here for a long time, since the 80s. Now, since Keuka is a Y shape, it's got kind of a peninsula in the middle. And if you come up the outside of Keuka and then go down into that V of the peninsula, it's got a totally different feel than the outside. So it's a lot more rustic in there, more campy, narrow dirt roads, and the cabins and camps are just kind of built right into the hillside. So I like to drive in there just for a different feel. I think if you only had time to drive around one Finger Lake, I would pick or suggest Keuka, because I think it has the most variety of the lakes. It's got it's got several little towns around it, and then the faster road along the outside of the lake, the campy road on the inside. And even if you go up on the ridge of that peninsula between the two branches of the lake, there's some nice farms and wineries up there, and that's a totally different view as well. So we're going to keep heading west, and we're going to next look at the two largest Finger Lakes, Seneca and Cayuga. Seneca Lake is the deepest Finger Lake at 618 feet deep, and at the very bottom of it is the town of Watkins Glen. Now, Watkins Glen is a little bit well known because there's a NASCAR track here, and also Watkins Glen State Park has some of the most spectacular waterfall hikes in this area. If you're into that, I highly recommend it. We haven't done it for a long time, but I remember it was beautiful there. Now, Watkins Glen only has a population of less than 2,000 people, but it feels so much bigger than Penn Yan because there's a lot of touristy stuff going on here, and NASCAR and big businesses are here, so that makes it feel a lot bigger and a lot more busy. So you saw all the wineries and breweries I just showed you along Seneca Lake. All four of the lakes that we are visiting today have their own wine trails around them: Canandaigua, Keuka, Seneca, and Cayuga. So if you're into wine tastings, pick one of those four lakes and you won't go wrong. Between Seneca and Cayuga Lakes, I love to stop in a little town called Ovid. It's right in the middle, in between the lakes, and I like to stop here to see the Three Bears. These are these three Greek Revival buildings here in Ovid, and they were built in the mid-1800s. This Papa Bear is the courthouse, Mama Bear is the new clerk's office, and Baby Bear is the old clerk's office. So I've never been in them. It looks like they're renovating them right now. There's a lot of scaffolding and stuff around them, but I just think they're so cute, and it's a good stopping point if you're driving around the Finger Lakes. So Cayuga is the longest Finger Lake at around 39 miles. Now, I've always thought that Cayuga was my least favorite Finger Lake because it's so big that I think it lacks some of the charm and variety of some of the smaller lakes. You can see way across it, but also the ridges around Cayuga are not as tall, so you don't get those like big hillsides and then the lake. Anyway, it's the longest. It's the last one we're gonna do for today. And near the top of Cayuga Lake is the little town of Seneca Falls. And this town is pretty well known because it's the birthplace of women's suffrage in America. Right now we're at the Women's Rights National Historical Park. It's a national park unit, and there's all kinds of displays here. We're not going to go inside right now because they're closed, but this is a well-known spot in the Finger Lakes area. And you know, all over upstate New York is full of history. It's one of the things we loved best about living in this area. You probably heard of Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who lived in upstate and started the women's suffrage movement here in America. Also, Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman lived in upstate New York. They ran the Underground Railroad, and Frederick Douglass also helped with women's suffrage here. Waterloo, New York is the birthplace of Memorial Day. There's a little town called Leroy, New York, which is where Jell-O was invented. So we loved, especially when we were homeschooling our kids when they were young, taking them around to all these different kinds of places. And then there are countless festivals every year in upstate New York, from spring to fall. Just about every weekend there's some kind of little festival going on, or big ones like the Lilac Festival that we visited this weekend. So we are so excited to come back to our old home and revisit all these places that we used to love. So thanks for coming along with us today. We're gonna do a few more of the smaller lakes tomorrow over on the west side, but we are done for today. The sun is setting, we are tired, and we're gonna get some dinner. So we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, I forgot to say, another reason that Seneca Falls, New York is famous is because it's the inspiration for the town of Bedford Falls in It's a Wonderful Life. It's a little windier and cloudier out in the Finger Lakes today. Today we're going around the Little Lakes. This is a nice sign here that explains that the four smallest Finger Lakes are Honeoye, Canadice, Hemlock, and Conesus. So right now we're at Honeoye Lake. Now these smaller lakes still have all kinds of summer cabins all around them, and there are big recreation areas, but they tend to be a little more peaceful, a little more quiet, because they're not the big lakes that we saw yesterday in the east. These four are on the west side. They're the four smallest Finger Lakes. So, and we're at Honeoye Lake now, and Jason and I both said, oh, it looks bigger than we expected or remembered, because when you compare it to the big Seneca and Cayuga and Canandaigua lakes that we saw yesterday, these ones are very small, but they're still a good size for, you know, vacationing and recreation. So we're just going to do a little drive around these four little lakes today.
Our lunch. Everywhere. It smells so good.
No. So I kind of misspoke before. Canadice Lake actually does not have any houses around it. And that's because the city of Rochester designated this lake as a public reservoir for drinking water for the city of Rochester. So for that reason, nothing is allowed to be built on this lake. And there's just like one road that goes down one side. I don't even think you can drive all the way around it. But apparently you can take out a fishing boat on it. I think as long as it's not a motorboat, you can fish on this lake. Both Hemlock and Canadice Lakes have served as sources of drinking water for the city of Rochester since 1876. All right. So does that mean Hemlock also doesn't have houses? We'll have to see when we get over there. is Hemlock Lake, and it is a water treatment reservoir for the city of Rochester. There's signs coming into the park here, and you can see that there's no houses built along the lake shore here. So there's a little kind of recreation playground fishing spot here, but not too much else on Hemlock Lake. So Conesus Lake is the westernmost Finger Lake, and that is the last one that we are going to do on our trip. And you can see again that there's lots of summer houses and cabins around this lake. We're back to a regular recreational lake. There's some towns around here. Lakeville and Livonia are at the top of Conesus. Those are pretty little towns. And there's 3 other Finger Lakes to the way far east near Syracuse, but we're not going to reach those on our trip. But Skaneateles Lake especially is a lovely lake with a beautiful town on top of it. So I think we did pretty good though. We got 8 out of the 11 lakes, 4 little ones, 4 big ones. So hopefully you got a sense of the area and things that you might want to do on your possible trip to the Finger Lakes. So we're going to end our trip to New York here, and also it's the end of our 6th circuit. If you've been following along with us, we do these circuits kind of instead of seasons. And this year we went down from Maine to Florida. We spent the winter in Florida, and then we did Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, up to the Dakotas, to central Canada and the prairies in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, back through Minneapolis and Michigan and upstate New York. And now tomorrow we're heading back to the Boston area, where we're going to spend a couple of months with our kids and our family. And we're so excited to kind of go back to that home base. We have little home base campgrounds around the Boston area that we hang out in the spring and the fall as we're coming and going from Maine and Florida. So we're excited to do that. Next time we see you, it's possible we'll be up on our land in Maine, but wherever we see you next, I hope you are having a great summer, and we will see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.